coming in here doing the video as promised on are you being vigilant? Okay, it's gonna be a good video. Uh, and yeah, what we're talking about is just the importance of being vigilant. And basically, I'm coming off the Bible verse where it says, "Be vigilant, be watchful, for your adversary." It basically says he's seeking to devour you like a lion. And if you ever watch a lion stalk its prey, whatever it's stalking, it's focused, watching its every move. And what is it looking for? It's looking for the perfect opportunity to pounce on it and what? And devour it, consume it, okay? And this is how Satan operates with us. He's sitting there, he is watching and looking for the perfect opportunity to pounce on you. So if you were, what are those things out there that the lion eats, caribou or whatever those animals are, that the different animals the lion eats, what would you need to be mindful of? What are the things you need to be paying attention to when you're out there? Well, the first thing, the animals around you. You need to be watching the bushes. You know, I wouldn't be too close to the brush and stuff. That's where the lions hide at when they're stalking. You know, there's a bunch of things that you know to be vigilant and aware of. Well, it's no different than in the spiritual. Okay, we need to be aware of what we're thinking, the thoughts that are in our head. And sometimes thoughts will creep in our head and we won't even be aware of them, or we won't realize that, hey, that's a bad thought, I need to cast that down. Maybe you're not aware of that yet. So what else do you need to be paying attention to? You need to be paying attention to your actions. Pay attention to what you're doing. And eventually, you know, if you're even a little bit aware, you're gonna recognize, you know, hey, this don't line up with book. I don't need to do this, or I don't need to say that, or I don't need to go here, or whatever. And what you'll do, you'll see how you are being led down a destructive path in some way, shape, or form. So these are some of the things, but at the end of the day, it goes right back to being vigilant. And when that vigilance isn't there, you're giving room to the enemy. And like I said, the front lines of his battleground is in between that stuff that's in between your ears, okay? Your brain, your thoughts. That's where the war is waged at. Your thoughts, feelings, emotions, impulses. You know, you have to be aware of, hey, is this, and just because you're emotional or you're having thoughts, feelings, emotions, they're not bad. It's not a sin to, you know, to have different emotions, anger, frustration, this, that, and other. But you got to make sure they're directed, I guess you could say, in a righteous way. I think that's the best way to say it. You want to make sure that, you know, you're having them and experiencing these thoughts, feelings, emotions in a righteous way. You know, one of the things I say, sometimes you got to get frustrated and upset with your own stuff to really go to war with it. You know, you got to get angry at yourself or at certain behaviors or certain things, certain ways you operate. Yeah, you got to get frustrated with yourself in order to really take action. Sometimes that's what it takes. So again, it comes down to just, being aware of, you know, what you're feeling, what you're going through before, you know, before it gets you. Now, there's another thing, you know, being around your brothers and sisters, fellowship, being around the saints. It takes it to a whole nother level because now you're in an environment where you're more able to, you can see things in yourself even more. It's more, it's, or like we say, iron sharpens iron. It's an environment that is, I guess you could say, like a bigger mirror where you can see yourself, see what your shortcomings and your strengths and your weaknesses and all that. Like in a community environment, you the only way you won't be able to see what you got going on is if it's just a willful, um, intentional not looking at yourself, because it's going to really be in your face. Um, Here's another way to really see who you are, how you're operating, stuff like that is your job. Whatever you put your hand to do, it you're going to really see. I could tell you, like this being a mechanic, um, I had a brutal job last week. Uh, and I saw a lot of, when you get in those situations, if you're wise, you're going to ask yourself, hey, how did I get here? What happened? Why did I take this job in? What did I underestimate? Oh, look, check this out. So what I had to do wheel bearings on Mercedes, rear wheel bearings on a Mercedes. I think it's a GL 440 or some 450, something like that. This large SUV. And listen, y'all, I left the house to do that job, I think around 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that, maybe earlier. I think it was, yeah, I left to do that job at 7 in the morning. Y'all, I didn't get back home from finishing that job till 11:30 at night. I didn't, what it was, the wheel bearings on this car, that everything on it is a little bigger than the tools I had for doing wheel bearings. So, man, I had to make like 3 trips back to Murfreesboro because it was in another town, and y'all, it was brutal. I was out there. My I had to go to a metal scrap, picking up different pieces of metal, and it tired out my forearms holding on to this metal while I was looking for the right pieces. Y'all, by the time I got back, so I had to make, I worked on a car, I made a couple trips, and then when I got back to work on the car, it was like 4 o'clock, and I'm out there working on a car, then it started raining, and 4 o'clock turned to 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock turned to 8, 8 turned to 10. Y'all, my forearms are cramping up. It's raining. I'm trying to do this thing. I'm like, man. And mind you, I messed up in a lot of ways. One of the main things I did, I had him pull back the car halfway into his garage. Okay? So because he backed, the back halfway in his garage and the wheel bearings on the rear wheels are disassembled, I locked myself in. It's like, yo, you got to finish his job tonight. Otherwise, this dude got to leave his garage open all night. He ain't going to want to do that. So there were a lot of things. But what I had to do is look at my lapses in thought. And I didn't see those lapses in thought where, I didn't do adequate research on the job. I overestimated my capability of what tools I had. Had a parked truck in the wrong place. So what you have to do in situations like that where the result comes out and bites your ass is I gotta look at, hey, number one, don't take on big jobs. Number two, don't take on complex jobs on luxury vehicles. Number three, do your research, because what happened, there wasn't adequate, I did a little bit of research, but there wasn't adequate information on this job and on how to do it. But I said, I'll figure it out. I don't do that no more. If there ain't enough information, I'm just not going to do the job, So, but even digging in even deeper, what mindset got me in that predicament? Well, that's what I'm looking at now. That's what I'm dealing with, and working through that and making adjustments for that. Because listen, y'all, life is always talking and teaching. You see what I'm saying? Can you comprehend it? If you study the word, it's gonna help you hear what life is saying to you. You have a lot of people, man, life is screaming at them. They don't hear it. They're not taking the lesson. And it's not till sometimes you gotta let people smash into that wall at full speed, because when people collide with that wall of destruction that can come when you just endlessly stubborn. Hey, what I've seen when they collide with that, everybody. Well, not I can't even say that. I've seen people collide with the wall and still keep going until what? Till they die from their stubbornness. So there is a stubbornness under that level. But we have to be wise to hear. And when we say wise to hear, not just messages on the Shabbat when we're sitting there and we can talk, not just that, not just what people are telling you, but with circumstances and situations are telling you. You got to be listening and looking for everything. You have to be, like I said, vigilant. I had a situation, you deal with people, especially being a head of assembly, dealing with saints, and you're trying to tell them stuff, and they're looking and they're finding excuses to justify themselves. And me and my stubbornness, because I'm having to learn this myself, this area is, hey, when people are righteous and they truly trying to change and grow, and not just trying to look like and act like when they're not trying to look the part, but they're actually trying to be it. And people are truly trying to grow and develop. They're not looking to make excuses literally while you're telling them stuff. They're actually looking to see where they're off at. You see what I'm saying? And those types of people, when you go to them and you correct them, it's effortless. They want it. They're wanting to know. They're wanting to get it right. They're wanting to level up. When you're trying to correct people who trying to look the part, they're just trying to look it on the surface. They're not really trying to change. It's just a bunch. It's burdensome. It's like a headache It's this, ugh. And I've learned that, hey, as soon as I see it, as soon as I discern that, as soon as I see that, be done. Because if you continue trying to push through and try to convince a stubborn person of something they got going on with themselves, man, you do some stuff like that, now you in sin, you in error, you are. And one of the big things that is work my own salvation out. Selves from this wicked and untaught generation. Work your own salvation out with fear and truth. See what I'm saying? Don't get distracted trying to work other people's salvation out. This is me. This is major things I'm working on with myself. And it's, people will suck you into that, into trying to work their salvation out for them. It don't work like that, you know? And you're going to help people work their own salvation out more by being an example, by them seeing you do it, than anything else. So yeah, but man, that's what it's about, man. And you're not going to do that unless you're vigilant. You're being vigilant about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and just taking time with those thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and not letting the discomfort of them shake you up and cause you to do something you shouldn't. I can tell you, man, after that job last week, you know, after I did that job last week and went through that, I was like, I've made a lot of changes, with the business, with how jobs we take, all that stuff like that. And so and this is how we learn. We learn from, our mess ups and mistakes. You fail forward. Those people who are truly wanting to grow and develop. The people who don't want to grow and develop, they minimize failures. They act like it didn't happen. They'll make excuses. They'll blame shit. Like, I could come with a myriad, like with a ton of different ways people avoid dealing with failure and mistakes and all that shit. Y'all, I'm trying to mess up as quick as I can, as fast as I can, so I can learn and grow and develop like I need to. A lot of people have a fear-based relationship with failure. A lot of other people have a pride-based relationship with failure. If they fail, they mess something up, it hits their pride, And you have to have a healthy, mature relationship with failure. My relationship with failure is fail forward, like that saying says. Them failures are the ultimate lessons. That day, like I said, last week, when I took in that job and that job kicked my ass, and I was feeling it because I was tired. My forearms were cramping up. So when I say my forearms were cramping up, I couldn't move my fingers. Like, if I tried to close my fingers, they keep closing. And then once they close, the muscles would lock up and it hurt. And then when I try to open them, they lock up the other way. I was like, Lord, you got. I don't know. I was like, I just got to take this minute by minute, because this too will pass. That's what I had to tell myself. I was like, but man, once it was over, I was like, I gotta figure out where I went wrong. I was like, there's a lot to learn here, and y'all, I'm telling you, what I learned is amazing. Okay, I found it led me to do some research and find kind of a more efficient way of running the business where I'm not burning myself out. We're working efficiently. Um, but yeah, that's y'all. That's what it's about. And like I said, if people, when you see people, they make excuses. Like you watch people's response to failure, and you'll know who you're dealing with pretty quick. You know what I'm saying? Um, you just watch how they respond to it, because that's the ultimate test of humility. You're gonna know you're gonna know what a person's made of. So, but yep, there's a car accident here. Ooh, they busted that thing open. Yep, there's a car accident here. But yeah, we have to fail forward. I'm telling you, y'all, the most in your failures, when you mess up, there is so much educational material in that it's just, it's better than a classroom environment or something like that. There's a lot to learn from. And like when you really mess something up, like for me, taking in that job, and mind you, the customer, even though the job went over, because the job was supposed to take maybe 3 hours max, that shit ended up taking like 14 hours or some shit. But the customer was like insanely happy and praising and gave me a huge tip. And I was like, dang, you know, gave us a great review. You go see the review if you, as a witness. So you know I'm telling the truth. But gave us an amazing review. But at the end of the day, man, it was a major pivotal point for me as like as a business owner, and running a business. I learned a lot. It was big. And the thing is, I watched some people that say, oh man, sometimes stuff just happens. Bullshit. Stuff don't just happen, you know. One of the things I say, one of the ways the Most High communicates to us is through circumstances and situations. It says he came so we could have life, have it more abundantly, So, yeah, man. But you're not going to get these lessons that are happening all the time. You're not going to get them if you're not being vigilant. You know what I'm saying? If you're not being watchful. If you're not being humbly vigilant, too. You got to be vigilant in humility, not pride and just, coming up with elaborate excuses of why it's not your fault. When situations happen, I'm digging to find out where I'm at error in the situations. You know, I'm looking to see, hey, where am I at fault in this thing? Like there's something, because you don't want to operate and function in life with chaos and dysfunction. So we got to be vigilant, okay? Let me see. Okay. But anyway, with that said, y'all, that concludes this brief lesson. I told y'all I was going to go through. Like I said, in the coming weeks, I'm going to really be getting after it here on social media. With that said, y'all, I'm going to wrap this up. Appreciate all y'all coming in, checking this out. And with that said, I'm Michael Israel.